They are, but
right. So
there he is.
Should be uploading now. Cool. Well, yeah, that's the end of the pre-show. We'll catch you all on the other side. Where are we? There we go. Oh wait, lads, sorry. We'll be on in a few more seconds. Just give me a minute. Been in my head all weekend now. Anyway, real intro. That was a lot of effort just to get that on. That's it.
Fucking awesome.
Hello, and welcome to Spotlight, here, live on Grapple Patreon. I'm Benno.
I'm JP.
And I'm Matty.
Something about that music just feels right, doesn't it, lads? It feels like that was... maybe we should have got to them first, JP. That should have been the alternate weekend show theme or something like that. What a corker. What a song.
Absolutely fucking corker, mate. I'm trying to think this should be... It should just be used in... You could put that into Drive and get away with it. Drive the film and just think, yeah, absolute fucking banger.
One thing they got right this weekend, Matty. Good to have you on, mate.
Don't start me already. I'm in the mood tonight, Ben, already. I've been quiet all weekend on the Discord now. I've been quiet.
I noticed that.
I've typed loads and deleted and not posted. I'm saying this tonight.
And it's not even... This isn't even an official... We're not calling this like a Spotlight Saturday Night Main Event review. It's an old school Spotlight, as we said on the pre-show, JP. There's a million things to get into. We did actually at one point plan on building Spotlight around it. And then the show happened on Saturday night. But there's plenty of other things to talk about in the wrestling world, Matty. That's why we've got you here to talk some New Japan Strong Style Evolved and to talk some... TNA final
I'm on the
resolution.
Clock, I'm on the clock here, sorry, mate. No? Half an hour
collision,
clock, yeah.
Bit of Rampage, maybe. That's thrown in there. Monday Night Raw.
I only cover wrestling that's got full arenas, Ben. You know the gimmick by now. Come on.
Is that the rule? We'll have to check the numbers. It was pretty impressive. But we will be mostly covering Saturday night's main event, but obviously we've got all that other stuff to cover as well. I imagine we'll be quick on that show this week. But yeah, it's a fun time of year. Just saying in the pre-show, it is Christmas time, so we're all very excited, all setting our plans up. We've got loads of year-end stuff coming up. We've got the GRAPPYs and do it every time. GRAPPYs and CRAPPYs. GRAPPYs and CRAPPYs. We do enough like messing around with the copyright of the Graps and Clads lads. Graps and Claps lads with I'm losing it. Grapple lads. Live. Too many graps and craps and claps. Like we've done enough of that, so you know I'll keep that on the other side. But yeah, we will have that coming this weekend. It will be this week's bonus show for our patrons. Will be the Crappy Awards on top of the Grappy Awards, which will be Spotlight at the weekend. Matty, I know you've been looking through Connor's managed to catalogue all of our picks from last year and the year before that, but it's a bit like BC and DC or whatever they do in the Bible. That's Grapple Days when you were in on, mate. So we don't count that. Yeah, that's not in the official results.
Archives.
But, yeah, the archives. That's what we'll call it. The Indie Corner archive.
We've got enough content out here now. We've really got to go back and see what we said at this point. Genuinely, it's scary.
Sell it to someone. We'll do our own Netlifx deal at some point. But I know you've been laughing at some of our award picks from last year, mate.
JP's been nailing it, though. JP, you nailed it last year, mate. You were saying you were the only one, or the year before, the only one who said Punk could come back to the WWE. We all said no. You said definitely beat it.
Likely unlikely.
Really?
JP nailed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that when I read it. And there's a few other ones in there as well, but yeah, what was that?
FTR Tag Team of the Year.
Yeah, FTR.
Yeah, you had ABC. I challenged you to name an ABC match from last year. On the spot, there, name one.
In the moment, who was it against? The Rascals.
Exactly.
I'll just say the Rascals, just because they probably wrestled.
They probably wrestled them, didn't they? Probably. Well, the question was going to be who's ABC, but anyway. Yeah, we have to stand up for one of Garrett's choices last year is get in the bin was AEW haters. So yeah, I don't know whether we just need to climb ourselves into the bin at this point. A lot of things can change in a year, you know. We all make predictions and we all do our best, but you can't nail everything.
That was it as well. I think we all went no on will AEW or WWE be on a streaming service in 2024 or 5? Yeah, we all said
don't
no.
listen to us. We're fucking idiots. Jesus Christ. That seems pretty predictable, to be fair. I feel like JP would have nailed that. We need to check the records.
Yeah, we actually need to put some thought and actually go back from nowadays, lads. But love it. Can't wait for them shows, though, lads. Like, obviously, the negativity on the crappies is always what gets everyone going as well. We like to be positive and give the awards where they deserve to go as well, JP. So we'll get our thinking caps on this week, won't we, for before the show next weekend?
I was terrified looking at the list on it, and I'm like, oh my god, like, because
bold decisions we've got to go with this year, lads. You know, I think there might be a bit of difference this year. Certain categories you usually like go like 2 or 3, but I reckon there could be a lot of split this time round.
I think there'll be a ton of difference.
Yeah, and I think you might even surprise some people, Matty, based on some conversations we were having. But maybe it's just drunk talk when we were in Birmingham. I don't know whether you'll stand by any of it. But it might not be as predictable this year, I wonder. But if anybody does want to play along, where Connor has already put up on the Discord, free for all in just the general section. You don't have to be a patron to join our Discord. Link is in the description of pretty much everything we put out, and you can play along, put in your picks. We'll try and include them in some form as we go across the shows. Let us know what your it should be Strand of the Year, shouldn't it? I think we call it the Big Six, all of the different. Was it Coke crisps?
What's chocolate crisp,
food establishment,
food establishment, meal. Yeah, they're all the Big Six. Yeah,
that's Time Awards as well. We're doing film, TV of the year as well. All that stuff.
And usually a couple of mine are not from the year we're covering because I'm that nostalgia. Yeah.
And mine are from, like, I go on my Letterboxd and go, oh yeah, you watched 2 films this year. Fair enough. One of those films is going to be your film of the year. That's pretty much how it works for me. But it's going to be fun. It is end of year season. It's not one of our shows, but worth throwing out there. If it's a long week to the GRAPPYs for you and the CRAPPYs at the weekend, me and you, Matty, are going to be busy on Wednesday night for the big fat wrestling quiz of the year over with our friends Poison Rana. This is your 3rd year in a row now. I think you've been on
probably fair, but they split us up this year, Ben. I mean, we got screwed out of the win last year, to be fair to us. We did get screwed.
I think we got on too well last year. I think I honestly think Martin was disappointed. Like, we did too well. Like, we won. Like, whether we won officially in the rules or not, we won. We were too good, but they had to split us up. That's what it is, the Mega Powers.
So I'm with Andy Ogden this year, Ben. So I'm looking forward to all Andy's BritRes knowledge. I hope there's a BritRes section that Andy can absolutely nail for us, for sure.
You two actually argue more than me and you, actually. I remember that now. Oh yeah, it's you and it's all the Andys. It's you and Andy Ogden, me and Andrew Thompson, Benno and Thompson's wrestling adventure. We're teaming up. John Cena and Be the Traitors, the other team there as well. Always good to chat with those lads. Martin will be in charge. Brandon from New Jersey has said that he's going to address the Bushby universe. I don't know whether that's true or not, or whether he's going to have a written apology for us all. But I imagine there's going to be some hijinks, mate. So yeah, always a great time. Live on YouTube, Poison Rana's YouTube search, Poison Rana, whatever you watch stuff, mostly YouTube, but the audio will be up everywhere as well. But yeah, can't wait. Always a good time.
Oh, always absolutely love it. The question did just once again, I can remember something from 30 years ago, but when Martin says in March of 2024, I'm like, what? And you just
recorded the podcast. And we all go, what do we?
But yeah, can't wait though. Cannot wait for that.
Oh, so that's coming up, and just for me personally, me and Hamflet have put up non-grapple business, but Benno and Hamflet in your house, our latest housekeeping episode, where we get ourselves ready for In Your House 2. The review of that will be out on December 28th/29th, the Sunday morning. But yeah, we chat a bit of King of the Ring 1995. Bill Shatner on Raw and all the good stuff as well. So yeah, do us a favour, search that out wherever it is, Benno and Hamflet In Your House, and yeah, give us a like, give us a comment, and give us a subscribe as well as we try and get that going. And we might have somebody staying in the spare bedroom in the house coming up for In Your House.
I was going to say, get the duvets and pillars out of the immersion cupboard, get them ready, Benno.
I've had that happen in real life, and I'm going to happen in podcasting as well. But, yeah, official announcement covered soon. But yeah, that's all available over there as well. But yeah, like I say, GRAPPYs, CRAPPYs coming up on our end. Ask Grapple, the Christmas party. We're planning on doing it, aren't we, on the Friday, the 27th. So look forward to that as well. And somewhere in it, JP will review World's End and Wrestle Kingdom and the actual wrestling that's going on over Christmas period.
Yeah,
well. We'll find a way.
We'll find a way of doing that by hook or by crook, even if we do some like outrageously early episode or something like that. Yeah, it could be a lot of fun, but the bastards could have just laid off that between there. But the other stuff is going to be fantastic. Oh yeah, I know.
And also, can I say as well, lads? Sorry, there's also going to be a special bonus Christmas episode of Retro that's going to be dropping. Me, Gareth actually messaged me today, asking when we're going to do that. Yeah, so we're going to
not on the schedule. I've noticed.
And the Retro listeners will get an extra little bonus Christmas presents when they listen to that show. Oh. The listeners will understand about that one. So I can't wait for that to drop as well.
Brilliant. Look for that at a mystery time and date at some point on the feed as well. But on top of that, speaking of getting our stuff together, we should talk, starting off with some WWE before we get into AEW, New Japan and TNA matters. Saturday night's main event was on Saturday. It was a show. Cody wore the old belt. Jesse Ventura was there. Right, AEW. Let's move on.
Is that it? Is that all we're getting? Are we? Is that all?
Discord weren't happy, Matty. You've been turning a few people around on our Discord to the Fed. I saw even Voices of Wrestling did one of their instant reaction reviews for it. Like I said before, we were thinking of doing a whole spotlight on it. I don't know. We all felt a bit. Maybe it was our own fault, Matty, with being sat up at 2 a.m. watching adverts. Well, not even adverts actually. It was that weird instrumental song that I played on the pre-show there, but it was I don't know what it was. It was like the theme song to an NBC TV show. It was a lot. It was
What did people expect? It was a TV show. They're gonna have adverts in. It's like staying up for Raw
not that
or Dynamite.
You don't have to defend everything.
It's American time. As people not watch stuff for years, honestly, like it was.
I watch SmackDown every week. There's not that many ads. Like it was excessive number.
We used to stay up for Raw, Benno, every week, mate, and it was adverts after each. In between each match after every segment. I'm saying, it might have been because, and this is where people were moaning about, like, they used to get adverts in-house on wrestling. You know what I mean? It's like, I get it, of course, if you're staying up, but we've watched shows before. Like, come on.
No, like that doesn't hold any water. Like this was unreal. Like the amount of ads that were in there, the amount of cutaways between matches, it was paced horribly. Like it was the way they put the show together was the problem. You know me, I've got no problem with long pay-per-views or short pay-per-views, even from WWE's point of view these days, with a lot of breaks between matches. That's fine. Like I can live with that. I like. It's become like an in-joke, but I like getting a coffee. I like getting up. I like if I'm in the arena stretching my legs. Yeah. This was like. JP helped me out. It's like this was like another level of stuff, like through the individual matches and just constant cutaways. It was excessive even for them, I would say.
It was excessive. I mean, I wasn't affected because I wasn't watching it live. So because I'm up in the morning, I'm skipping through. But even then, I was like, I'm doing this a lot, and it did feel like every 10 minutes, and you kind of think these ad breaks are meant to be specifically structured. You know, it's not like
it was just badly laid out. That was the problem. Yeah. Too many matches. They had less matches and they filtered them around the ad breaks.
You'd be still getting the adverts, wouldn't you? As Chris said there, it's network TV. People forget that it was on in American network television. We got the YouTube one, yeah, of course, but there's adverts all over the place, Ben. You should know that one.
And you can lay your show out to deal with that amount of adverts. How are you possibly defending it? Like, there's no.
I'm not saying it's ideal. I'm saying when you watch it, you've got to expect it because it's on TV in America.
Yeah,
I don't.
And you also expect them to pace the show in a way where they're not like cramming it. Like their whole business plan this year with pay-per-views has been less matches to deal with the ad breaks, and this particular show was an example of them having too many matches to deal with the ad breaks. They're the people who should know. They're the ones who knew they were on network TV. They're the ones that knew they were on YouTube in an unlisted link for the rest of the world. You just pace your show around it. It's absolutely doable. They just didn't do it on Saturday night. It's a completely fair criticism that I think most people have who don't have shares in WWE. We've got to criticize them at some point, man. Come on.
No, go on. Sorry, JP. Go on, mate. Go on.
I was going to say this is the issue. If you're trying to do like their pay-per-views have these many matches and they go 2.5 hours with the kind of breaks in between, and this was more or less like down to 1 hour and 20 minutes. Like when you've got like the kind of like the adverts as well. It's weird for them to do that, but there was no like skits, was there? There was just like the odd kind of like cutaway. Yeah, but it was all in ring. So it was like the idea of like they're presenting something that's kind of like a pay-per-view in that sense and how it's kind of formatted, but they're doing it on network TV. And in some ways you kind of go, I don't know, 3 big matches they could have got away with. Did they need to have like 5 in there? You look at like Drew McIntyre versus Sami Zayn. You just think you might want to hold back for that because you're going to have Netflix and you're going to need big matches kind of every week. So maybe there's a couple of those they could have held on there.
Yeah, they pace these things well every month. They pace the pay-per-views, in my opinion, I'm not everybody, but I like the pace of the pay-per-views mostly. They pay SmackDown on network TV absolutely fine. Like, yeah, there's a way of doing this, and they just didn't pull it off. It's not even the biggest criticism in the world, really, but it's a pretty self-evident one from watching that show back.
No, I think the only thing I will say probably is if there was 4 matches, yeah, maybe, but not like 3 matches, nothing like that. Maybe get rid of 1 if you're being like that. But then if you're putting a talking segment in there instead of that, then people would have obviously frowned upon that. So in that sense,
and they're welcome to be wrong. Those people aren't, that's fine. Like, but that was the problem with the show. I think for me, it was like the pacing of it, the cramming in too many matches of it, and I just think the non-entity of it in a lot of ways. I think if there was a relatively big angle on there, if there was some non-wrestling stuff it actually felt a lot like some of the AEW shows you see, where it's a lot of just show matches pushed out after matches after matches. They didn't actually give it time to breathe on this one, which was a surprise from them, and it was quite uneventful was the other problem by not doing that, by not having any angles, by having the big angle that we're obviously going to talk about not being on TV either. Don't get me wrong, it was like, if there was a lot of jokes going around that this was WWE's Battle of the Belts, and I think when Michael Cole was talking over the music and the commentary, I was kind of saying, yep, that feels like Battle of the Belts. That feels like some of AEW's production woes on that you get on Triller at times. You get a few of those mistakes, and they made a bit of a mess of the YouTube stream. It was an unlisted link rather than being properly on the page for the countries that were supposed to get it. I don't know whether something had gone wrong there on YouTube's end or what, but yeah, a lot of those like criticisms I think are fair, where it was, I think it was almost a victim of their own success. They did an incredible job of marketing this and branding it along with the Jesse Ventura stuff and the Cody with the new belt stuff, and made this feel like a TV special worth watching in ways that AEW can only dream of. AEW doesn't seem to understand at this point the idea of promotion and making things more important than other things, and everything kind of has that equal importance level. But I think when they put that extra importance level on this show and made it like a big Saturday night special, I think a lot of people came out of it going, oh, that was it. Your best angle wasn't even on the show.
It's fair, Ben, but I just think, like, for me, I can obviously only speak for myself because I watched it. It's like, I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? I enjoyed pretty much everything about it. And it was a change of pace for just them putting them matches on that happened. It's like every match was a sprint as well, wasn't it? It was like every match just literally were going straight into like move straight away. No like stalling, no arsing about at the start. It was very much every match straight into it. So I like that.
Called the PWG.
He did. Yeah, I couldn't believe that when I seen it. Like, what's he on at this point, Belt? Like, I mean, we could go all day about it, but I enjoyed that. But once again, like you said there, it's the success of their own marketing or downfall. I think that's what it was. I think people got too hyped for it, and that's why they're a bit let down. And fair play, like if that's how you feel. But for me, it was always going to be a TV show. If you never heard me coming on here saying this is going to be the greatest thing of all, no, it was a stopgap in the way until Netflix, until Royal Rumble, and that's where they are so good at marketing these shows that it got everyone so hyped that maybe it let them down slightly then, because it wasn't as similar as a pay-per-view that's in the past few months. But for me, I enjoyed it anyway.
Yep, Simon in the chat, same thing. He watched it day after and enjoyed it. How did you find watching it back, JP, as an experience?
Pretty easy. I thought it was. I didn't have high expectations. We spoke about it on the weekend show. I was like, well, what's the purpose of this? It's promoting Netflix. That's really what it is. And to give people who aren't watching WWE to try and hit some people that are just going, actually, this is kind of basically what it's like. The thing is, I think the version of what they presented isn't actually what they're like, though. They like their skits. There is still stuff on the main TV show that it's the stuff I struggle to watch. It's like some of the more backstage stuff and that kind of universe type element they try and present. And they didn't have any of this. If anything, it was presented more like bloody Dynamite, which is mad in that it's like match with the odd kind of like segment. And it didn't overdo the retro, which I was glad about. I was slightly fearing because obviously in the past, these things have just become, we were great at that point in time. We're not very good now, so we have to wheel out all the old lads. And there was less of it, even if some of the choices were just like wacky from that. A bloody Greg Valentine, Coco Beware, and some vice president type bloke who's inexplicably in the
Jimmy
Hall of
Hart
Fame
as well.
Jimmy Hart as well, yeah.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, but in terms of matches and everything else, it just sort of it was like, yeah, this was actually this was okay to watch. This was fine.
It was very
the only thing that
use of the veterans, I was going to say, is very like, it's the opposite of what would happen in the Vince era, where like,
definitely
not that this, you know, was breaking the atom in any way, but like the amount of times they've had all these. Ted DiBiase's always the one. It always ends, doesn't it? Like the 30th anniversary of Raw, the 25th anniversary of Raw. They'll find the reason. The 400th episode of Raw, it's always the legends like dance. It always ends up in dancing, doesn't it? For some reason, they're always dancing backstage or doing something wacky. I prefer that presentation. I like them just appearing, you know, and adding. It's that NXT presentation, isn't it, Matty? Like that.
Proper tribute,
you know, providing that bit of credibility. Yeah,
that's it. It is, but the thing I was going to say, sorry to jump, it was the only thing I will say about the marketing in this. It was such built on that main event, though, wasn't it? It was built on Cody and KO. Now I can see people's pushback even if they're going to obviously go to a rematch with that. I'm sorry, I haven't jumped because we are going to break it down. But it's like I can get that from that point of view, that this match has been built up so well, so hyped, that you didn't get that definitive thing, even though they are carrying on. I will say that about it, Ben.
But what do you think about them doing the angle after the show? I think that was was it a time thing? The fact that they were cramming so many matches in, like Triple H likes that though, doesn't he? Likes that little kind of, you know, fans on their cell phones getting footage of Kevin Owens, you know, turning in the first place was like part of what made this angle. I think maybe they overthought it, trying to do another one of them, you know, the package pile driver footage. It did go everywhere. You saw it all over Twitter and stuff. But I honestly think if that was just on TV, I think that would have improved this presentation.
And then cut off.
Yeah, that because like I think the last half an hour of the show are its strongest point. I think it's, you know, the point where they actually grew a set of bollocks and put Jesse Ventura on commentary. We can talk about that. the Cody and Owens match, which was, you know, psychology wise a bit all over the show, but was by far for me the best thing on the show. If you'd have just bookended that with the big angle, I think that would be, you know, the saving grace of this show. I think it's just that added thing in it as well, that the most newsworthy part of it. You didn't even need necessarily a clean finish, I'd say, to say back to that, Matty. I think you just needed something, you know, something to happen, essentially something important to happen, and that's what this angle was.
A cliffhanger to go back and watch it, to follow on watching it, and that's when you use the angle. And you can have the aftermath of the angle, the Triple H stuff. That's fine to push on your social media channels. But I thought that was like a real bad oversight from them, and not the kind of stuff they do. Because if you think of how many times you've watched a pay-per-view and the credit comes up, like the little copyright symbol, but you also realize that that's not sometimes the end of it, that there might be something else that happens. Like you lead up to that, and here it was like almost like the perfect opportunity to do something with it, where Owen starts attacking him, delivers the package pile driver, and people start getting really scared, and then cut away and have the extended full length. This is what happened on YouTube.
Stretch your job and Triple H after the
TV
show,
101.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think they should have ended with the pile driver, and as you say, even if they did, we ran out of time, and then you see all that footage after it, that would have been perfect. I definitely agree with that.
Package pile driver. Seeing that on a WWE program would be
wild.
I guess it adds to like the outlaw feeling of it, that it didn't even happen, you know, during the show, that he managed to bring that move back and do it. But yeah, thought that from what we've seen in the highlights footage was effective, and you know, all of the stuff. Owens walking out with the WWF belt. He's put on Twitter today a picture of himself next to Brett and Shawn with the same belt. What did you think of the Winged Eagle, Matt? I wasn't sure, like. I don't know whether it was like the version they had. It was a bit too shiny. I don't know what we'd done with it. It just didn't look.
It wasn't the same one, was it? It was, and it had like little points hanging out to the side, like more winged kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was still nice to see, and I still. But
it's the best belt, isn't it?
I think I like the Big Eagle. I like the Steve attitude era on me as well, to be fair. But this is obviously, it's a great belt, of course, and it is good to see it back. But yeah, it was just slightly not the same, was it? So yeah, it didn't have the total effect, even though it was nice to see.
Again, do you not think they missed an opportunity by having like a Bret Hart in the middle of the ring, doing basically what he did in AEW with the world title there, and just sort of taking the Winged Eagle Championship out, like almost before the match when they're doing like the ring introductions? Again, that feels like a kind of like a standard thing to do, like to big up the situation. Because like you said, with having the vets like in the crowd and the camera cutting to them is very, I was thinking that's very UFC production. That's what you see in all their pay-per-view celebrity And that's a better use of them because it makes it look like a cool event to go to if these people are going, in theory. So it makes it give it a bit more prestige. Again, it's like a bit of a, like, I thought when he came out with it, I was like, oh, he's wearing it. And it felt like a bit underwhelming because he's also moving around in his entrance. It's not, the attention almost should have been on the, if you're going to go to that much trouble to bring it back, for fuck's sakes, you might as well make a big deal out of it.
But at least now they're going to focus it in, obviously, with KO leaving with it. They're going to have it on TV, and I don't know what gimmick match they're going with. A ladder match, I don't know, with 2 belts or above. I don't know if it could be anything. Or they could do the old Mr. Perfect where Kevin Owens has lost his mind on it at the minute. He starts smashing it. You know, you can do loads with it. So I like from that it's not the last we're going to see of it at the same time. So
it gives an excuse for it to still be on television, doesn't it? If Owens has got it, I do like that about it. Yeah, Randy says here in the chat, needs to mug around me like it's from the 80s and covered in cigarette smoke. We got rid of them smoky arenas when the Hogan era started. That's what I learned. But yeah, as a match, is there much to say? Like I said, Cody's selling of the leg wouldn't get past the Jamesy test, I don't think. But it was a fun sprint of a match, wasn't it? You know, I enjoyed them doing like the table spots right in front of, we haven't talked much about it, Jesse yet, in front of Jesse doing the commentary. I also enjoyed, in one of the many commercial breaks, having a cutting in, like I said earlier, with Michael Cole, telling Jesse a couple of talking points to say, and giving Pat McAfee a couple who definitely hasn't watched the product since he was last on the product. It was
a one-man show for Cole, really, to be fair to him. He was driving all 3 of them.
Pro, and he said that on the weekend show, previewing it, didn't we, that he was going to be the one to keep that boot together. But yeah, he basically explained, didn't he, that the whole story of it, which was that Owens, you know, after not wanting to go after Cody's injured leg the last time they wrestled, proper going after it here, and yeah, it was a fun little match if you can maybe leave your brain at the door for some of Cody's spots in it.
Yeah, it was even the stuff with, like, they kept Randy Orton's name in there tied in, didn't they? Because when Owens gave Cody the side suplex on the table and was like, "Hi, Randy," to the camera, and then obviously you got the big RKO by Cody onto the table to Kevin Owens. So they still crammed a lot in there, as I say, all these sprint matches and them two. And obviously you got the visible pin. That's the main one where Kevin Owens can say he had him pinned for Showtime. He can say, "I'm the champion." Hence why he's going to carry the winged eagle. Carries it on. But Cody, Ben, the teetering. There was a few of you deserve it on the stretcher in the national. The teetering, JP, the fans. If he carries on like this, I'm telling you.
I'm surprised it took this long. I'm impressed it took this long. I think heel champion is in Cody's future at some point.
He'd be a great heel. Like,
apparently, we're building towards him in Rock. Meltzer's still saying.
Meltzer's done a
360
on that, hasn't he?
Has he already again? Fuck's sake.
No. He said originally Rock's not going to be there. Then he said they're going to wrestle, hasn't he? Yeah.
Dwayne had a ring, didn't he? Dwayne gave him a call.
Let him
clue them in. Yeah, maybe after that, or maybe something happens, you know, that gives you a
I'm happy. I want to see Rock.
Yeah. What do you think of the Jesse's commentary, JP? It was it had, like I say, I thought the show, just because of the pacing and just because of the non-entity for me of a lot of the previous matches, the main event was where it properly kicked off, and I think a big part of that was Jesse. Was just him being on there and being this wild card that, like, they could mute him at any time, but he could also say anything at any time and just amuse himself at any time. He kept taking his headset on and off. You could, like, audibly hear him. I don't know if that made it to the replay versions, but in the live version, it was certainly a thing. He was just doing whatever he wanted, and I was convinced, based on the picture behind you, they were going to leave him at the podium, JP, and not have the bollocks to put him on actual commentary. Fair play, they did put him on, but it did. It added a layer of entertainment for me of just the danger element of them being shit scared of what he might do.
Yeah, this isn't putting 90s Jesse on. This is Jesse who's gone governor of Minnesota and full-blown conspiracy theorist. So it could be anything at this stage, and it could be stuff that they would consider because they're so corporate. The idea of them taking a risk like that is a lot. You don't expect him to swear. He's a pro. But he might say something that people go, "Oh, hang on a minute, what did he say?" Like, he made a comment about Dusty Rhodes, which would have been the kind of thing that would have casually always been said in the 80s about his figure. And you just sort of think in 2024, you are kind of playing with fire here. So I did, like, fear the worst. But in that main event, this the stuff, just the fact he was like, that idea of why are you posing? You're here to win the match. Like, I love that kind of
logic, isn't it?
Still there.
Yeah. He was talking about Cody like he was a heel. Like he did that Jesse thing, didn't he? Where it was like, he's cheating, he's trying to use the chair. Like he was full on Jesse. He wasn't watered down, at least in that way.
It was like when he would say to Monsoon back in the day, it's just like, why is it fine when Hogan cheats? Why is it fine when Hogan does something sneaky and you completely praise it? Whereas if this guy does it, you don't. And it was always like that legit. It was like his legitimate base. It was like the thing to get from. It's just like, no, Gorilla, you're a hypocrite. And it was fucking awesome. And he did a bit of that. Saying that, I think with having him and McAfee on the show, who's also a kind of a wild card himself, it's just like, bloody hell, you really are. Like, it made me more impressed with Michael Cole just being able to kind of hang the whole thing together. You just think, God, an underproduced Michael Cole is all right. Like, he's very much all right. But yeah, I thought Jesse, in the main, he was better than what I thought he was, but I was fearing the worst.
Just hearing that voice again, though, like, just his voice is great, isn't he? Like, whether what he's coming out with, just that voice is amazing. Like, just to hear that back on even this for one night.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, he did as much. I wonder whether they'll bring him back for future ones. They'll at least have him on the presenting podium. But maybe they trust him more now. Simon saying, "Hey, I love Jesse in commentary, but doesn't put enough across Owen's view is great." You don't get that. Yeah, it's true. You don't get that in WWE or wrestling in general anymore necessarily. So yeah, he did a cracking job there. But that was the main event. I'll let you go, Matty. What were the other show highlights for us? What else did you enjoy in this thing?
I like the opener. I like McIntyre and Sami Zayn. Obviously, they can do a lot better if they got more time on pay-per-view.
Strong win for Drew, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I thought, and it was needed. You can, Sami Zayn, if anyone in the world of wrestling can take a loss and not be affected, it's Sami Zayn, but you're losing to Drew, who's just come back, needs to be reheated up. Unbelievable. Like, I thought this was a great bit of business, and it was good for the time it had as well, and the pace that they were going at. I thought they had a great match. I love this one. Like, proper did like it. And Drew Benno, once again, like, he's going with this. He's still in that Diesel role, but he's hitting a bit more harder on his promos, isn't he? Like, I'm gonna go on the internet and stuff like that. What's going on? Did you see that? What was he doing?
It's that difficult second album, isn't it? It's
like, yeah.
We had the Punk feud. And that's literally the only point in his career I've ever liked him. It's from the start of the Punk feud to the end of this Punk feud. What's he do next? He's trying to find ways, but it was
took them out.
Strongly put together.
Yeah, he took all them out, and he took Big Jim out on SmackDown as well. So he's don't know what they're ending up to with that one, but yeah, just good to see him. It is actually good. It is good to see him back, and hopefully he continues, like you said, his stuff from the Punk feud going into this next feud now, because he has been really good this year.
Definitely.
Well, but also, like, the triple threat, and I've been a big like defendant of Gunther with this like little arc they're doing where he's a bit down on himself, but I like the way they've closed that in this match, like, and I like this interview. I love the interviews backstage with the old red curtain as well. I like that touch, JP, with Jackie Redmond and that. And I thought Gunther's interview, once again, when he's just talking, that's what he does on his promos on TV, but especially backstage, he's brilliant. Like, he's really so good. It's just a natural guy talking, a sportsman. That's what he is. He genuinely is. Like, and he's been down on himself, like he said. Yeah, and then he's overcome it tonight. Got rid of Priest and Balor together. So I thought that was quite good, JP, for what it was as well, with the and the sprint as well. I thought that was good.
I think because it was a three-way, they could. I mean, this was the thing in that amount of time. It kind of always has to be a sprint to kind of get to the place it was. And if you've got kind of like Gunther in there and two decent pros in and around him, they can get away with it. And I was just more grateful, like, haven't rarely said this over I don't think I've said it for like something in the region of like 10 years, but the idea of Finn Balor being in the match was a good thing. I was happy about that, just because you needed a different dynamic, and having that there, and it's like the other stuff on it. It's very throwaway TV, but if you are going to throw TV away, this is something they could have done, because they've literally just done Priest and Gunther there anyway. You're not going to have a Balor Gunther series, so it's just like it was like an easy choice just to have Gunther on TV.
But you say it's throwaway in a sense it is, JP, but it's still, as you say, ending that arc of Gunther, like having his confidence been shot. He's all amped up going into Netflix and Royal Rumble now, and then you've still got the fact of, well, he pinned Finn Balor, so he still hasn't pinned Damian Priest on his own, and the fact you can let Balor and Priest go off and do, if they're going to carry on their thing. So even though it was that, you get all that coming out of it, which is fucking a big thumbs up all the way around going into the new year. I thought it was a good bit of business. Love the powerbomb on the steps as well. He struggled to get him up at first, and then, to be fair, he took it. Yeah, it was. It really was.
I would have. It kind of was what I expected. I would have liked him to smash through Damian Priest and just put a full stop on that, but we're going to get another match. It's going to happen, whatever.
Netflix,
It'll probably be TV, though, won't it? It might be on the undercard of the Netflix show or something like that. So that's absolutely fine. But yeah.
The two women's title matches. I mean, once again, it's theme of the show. Sprint. I thought Liv Morgan and Io was all right. Once it got cooking near the end, especially when they were going sprint, I thought that was good. I thought, obviously, the hard way knee, Io sky busted Liv Morgan's nose up. When I first seen that, I thought,
that wasn't it?
Was it?
Right.
Was it? Yeah, I thought that knee, JP, was like pretty snug. And the Germans, like the roll through Germans, Io, like I haven't seen her do that for a while, if I'm not mistaken. So that got a good pop as well. And it was a clean win, but I suppose if you're building towards, once again, Rhea Ripley come out at the end, we're going to end this, Benno, this feud finally. I heard you saying, hold on, weekend. You said that. I couldn't believe that. I was like listening, thinking like, I'm not fuming. I was like, wow, that's a statement for Benno. They're coming back, aren't they? Charlotte's back. Becky Lynch is rumoured to be coming back. I mean,
I think that'll be post-Mania to me. I think.
But they've done them too, though. They've done them too against Rhea, haven't they, at Mania? So, yeah, to be fair. But I think that's a Netflix one, Ben. I think that's going to be a Netflix because they've done the pose down at the end, didn't they? And Liv getting a clean win was needed, to be fair, because she's cheated every time as well. I know people won't like it against Dio, but I thought that was a good little match towards the end. But and the women's US title,
feel strong. But anyway,
the women's US title was always going to be what it is, especially with Chelsea Green. Like, you know, it's more character based with Chelsea Green, isn't it? And to be fair, the fans are behind it though. Like she has got that cult following these days in the arena, especially in the smart arenas. So yeah, I thought that was a good bit of business. She was always going to win that tournament once that was the final anyway. So yeah, fair play to her. I'm not saying it was the greatest thing, but deserved champion.
All the TNA references they were making though.
Yeah,
that was weird.
Yeah, this is it, JP. New era. But yeah,
I'm not as high as you on those two matches. No. I was like, yeah, very early, but yeah, Chelsea Green will never be good at actual wrestling, though, will she? That's never a thing that's going to actually happen. But she's over as a character.
She has.
She presents herself well. I'll give her that.
Yeah.
Organically as well. It's not forced, like, you know what I mean? She's a heel. She's playing this heel. I know she's comedic, but it's organically, especially in the smart arenas, she's very much over.
She'll be a massive face at the Rumble, I'd imagine.
Oh, definitely, JP. Definitely. But as you say, Ben, not one for the, you know, the 4 points, whatever matches you wanted, 4.25 matches. It wasn't that type of show. It was a fun, just let your hair down, watch this on network television, enjoy the ride. Let's build up to, yeah, whatever that was then. Sorry.
That's my fault.
Enjoy the ride. Get to the big show on Netflix. Get to the Royal Rumble. But as JP said before, this would usually be a downtime in WWE where nothing would be going on, literally nothing. So even if they did build this up as a big show and it did let a few people down in a sense, at least they were building something up in that stopgap until we get to Netflix. So I will commend them for that. It doesn't seem to be any downtimes per se anymore.
I think they kind of coloured what these specials are going to be. And again, the comparison to Battle of the Belts is valid in that, you know, we all know what Battle of the Belts is now. We all kind of know what these are now. They're going to be fun little TV specials. Like I say, hopefully they learn some lessons of pacing and that side of things. But it's going to be like the next one's the week before the Rumble, isn't it? It's going to be, you know, and it's coming in a month. We're about to talk about it. That's what that was, by the way. That was the Netflix commercial that I was putting up in the background there. As Triple H was bullied into appearing on camera to show off the new logo. I'll get into that in a second. But there's going to be a lot going on in January, so it's probably going to be that, isn't it? A light-hearted Saturday watch. I just hope to get it was probably, like I say, more difficult to watch on YouTube, especially if you're not one of us, Matty, and you're not in the top 1% of Monzo users on YouTube Premium. You got the ads. I believe that was an appalling experience trying to watch it back with them as well. But they'll probably have those things sorted out by January as well, won't they? And it'll either just be on.
Just don't stay up with it. Watch it the next day, like me and JP, and have a good time with it, JP.
Yeah, don't watch it live. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, okay. Fine. Shouldn't be live then, should it? Anyway,
I jest.
It's my own fault. I believe the hype. What are you gonna do? But yeah, speaking of which, I did play a little bit of it. Then we do have the new commercial for the Netflix debut, mostly revealing the logo, as I say, as Paul Levesque was dragged kicking and screaming into a bit of publicity, Matty, and a bit of spotlight. He doesn't like it.
Of course, doesn't like it at all.
He wants the wrestlers to have it, but. Yeah, what do you make of it? New Raw logo, same as the old Raw logo. Any thoughts on the card coming up? What are you expecting?
The card, I mean, obviously Tribal Combat, Benno. I mean, this is the match I've been waiting for, it seems, for like the last year or so.
4-star minimum, isn't it, mate? 4-star floor.
Minimum, I mean, absolute minimum. And we're going to get a big angle regardless. Like, Roman obviously should win, and I expect him to win. But if he doesn't, obviously we'll get Dwayne either way, costing him, or if Roman wins, he'll come out at the end. Surely he's going to make an appearance, so we'll get a massive angle to set that night, because that's got to be the main event as well, and we'll get a big angle to end like the first Raw on Netflix. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. Like, I can't wait for that match.
Getting it out the way.
Even I was like, that can't be Mania yet. Even I was like that.
Really?
I said that.
I don't remember that.
I did on here. I was saying,
we got that on tape.
We actually have. I was saying, how are they going to drag it out to Mania? Do you know what I mean? With Roman being on TV.
Not that it's not a big enough match for Mania.
No, it could be at Mania, but even I was like, let's get it with, and we'll see what happens after the Rumble and stuff like that. So
getting the getting the jobbers out the way is what they're doing, aren't they? It looks like it probably will be Punk Seth on the Raw Netflix debut as well, and then Punk and Raw, if it is Cody and The Rock at WrestleMania, if that really is happening. Roman and Punk's right there, isn't it? Explains, what we were doing at Survivor Series, having Punk take over the entire Bloodline versus Bloodline feud. And yeah, get the jobbers out the way. I'm with it. It's not bad.
I mean, I think Punk. I thought Punk would fight Gunther at Survivor Series, but obviously they're holding off.
There's that still in the ether.
I think Punk will beat Gunther at the Rumble, and I think Punk v Roman will be for the other belt, for the world belt at WrestleMania, if that's the case. Because I know you can't put Punk in the Rumble again. You just can't. You've got to make him 30 if you're going. You just can't have him going out there unless he's just going to lie in the apron. But I think that's the best way of getting him in the main event of Mania is if he beats Gunther and he's the champion, especially if he's already fought Seth. That can be a #1 contenders match. That's fine. And then, you'll have the favour. I don't know what the favour will be and how Roman gets there. Maybe he wins the Rumble. I don't know. There's so many ways, like we keep saying. There's so many characters and ways you can go to get this. Elimination Chamber. John Cena's a wild card in there. There's loads you can do, but I'd like Punk and Roman, Ben. I just love that. I'd love that at Mania.
Me. We're arguing about ad breaks tonight. Imagine what we're going to be like when it's Roman versus Punk.
We've argued so much about Cody and Roman over the last 2 years. If it's still a Roman, Jesus Christ, it will be.
Sign up to the Patreon, folks. We get more where that came from. Outside that, then, any other thoughts on the weekend's TV before we move on from WWE? SmackDown was a show on Friday that existed. Raw is later tonight, so won't waste much time on that. Any other WWE thoughts before you go, Matt?
It's just that we're all on the road to Netflix, really. Like the big matches have been announced, the big stars have been out. The SmackDown's tape for next week, isn't it, in the can? I haven't read the spoilers yet, but I have heard. Do you want me to spoil something for anyone? The only one I have heard is that, and I don't know if this is true, Randy Orton's still selling that pile driver. Cody Rhodes back on TV within a week, not selling that package pile driver, apparently. I don't know if that's true or not, but I haven't checked.
Imagine that happened in AEW, mate. Wouldn't live it down.
I know. But other than that,
it wasn't on telly, so it's fine. It's all
we're
right,
on the road to Netflix, and it's the wrestlers are having well-deserved time off over Christmas for once, lads. So we'll give them that.
That's the fucking crazy thing. They get fucking holidays off now.
JP,
we don't.
Vince would have tried to sneak in fucking 14 house shows over that.
Tony Khan's got them working New Year's Eve. What's going on?
I can't believe that we're gonna get onto AEW. I can't believe there's a Christmas Day Dynamite. I just assumed they were taking that night off.
Gotta be taped, that. Isn't it? It's gotta be.
Yeah. No, it is taped. It's just it's even aired. I just assumed they had the week off. I thought this week's Dynamite was gonna be the last one that's only on TBS, but there's apparently 2. But yeah. They're obviously doing a collision as well the day of the New Japan of Wrestle Kingdom, pretty much that night, Saturday night / Sunday morning, when they've also got another show going on that me and JP are about to talk about. But yeah, there we go.
Also, like, if it's the quick WWE force, like the New Day, I love that angle. I haven't talked about that on the show. I love that doing, like, how heartbreaking was you for Big E though? Like, genuinely was heartbreaking. It was horrible to see, and just the heat they got last week. Hopefully that can continue for without what they want to do at WrestleMania. But on the flip side,
it's a shame it's the New Day, isn't it? It's all great work, and then the bell rings, doesn't it?
I know, but I'll give Triple H credit. It's similar to other characters I've said about this. He's actually making you care about these characters, like a Finn Balor. I've never liked Finn Balor. Don't love him now, but I care more about him because of like the stock that they're putting in. They're putting proper work into these people. New Day, all right, it was not the obvious, but the only thing you could do with them too was turn them heel, Kofi and Xavier Woods, without it being stale. So I like the fact of that. But I was about to say on the other channel, on SmackDown, Benno, not feeling this heel DIY run, mate. I'm not into them because they need to get more promo time. I know, Jesus Christ, they're going to be in the main like matches going into WrestleMania, then be the machine guns, like, and even me. That's
nepotism,
like
isn't he? Not even related to him. Like, he can't go on as a son, innit? I just can't let it go.
You can't. But it is better than cosplaying as DX when they were faces, so I will give that. But I've just got to listen to them talk, doing heel promos like Gargano's on the worst on the mic, isn't he? So yeah, we'll see what happens with
they could
that,
do with some of them piped in boos, as Simon says here, that they're given to New. That was another thing on Saturday Night's Main Event. There was a lot of that. Again, maybe it was the YouTube mix or what, but oof, it was hard to listen to at times. But there we go. That's everything going on, Feb, mate. So yeah, unless you want to stick around to talk about Kenneth Omega and Big
no,
Boo
because I'll
AJ,
just people
will
think I'm just playing a part because I've got a lot to kick into AEW at the minute. But there's other stuff that, like, as I keep saying, the same thing all the time, Ben. They've got the roster. They've got some of the great mic workers. Just let's use them properly, like genuinely. Let's just start using them. 2025, that's the way forward for AEW. Let's just
look forward to your GRAPPYs and your crappy awards, mate. We're gonna get it all there. There's your preview for Sunday night.
But have a good show, lads.
On the Patreon.
Old school this, my morning commute to work. I'll be listening to you guys finish the show off. So
enough,
have a good one, lads. And I'll see you for the awards. Get your dicky bows ready for the weekend.
Hey, like Joe Testator.
Yeah. Ta-ra, lads.
See you later.
Cheers, mate.
On that note, JP, let's talk some AEW. We talked a bit on the weekend show about Kenny Omega and what's going on with him. It was a weird weekend of again. I probably regret putting a Saturday Night Main Event on and not watching Collision. I actually really enjoyed Collision this weekend, with some exceptions. Collision was a weird show this weekend in that there were matches that I thought were first class. There were actually promos that I thought were first class, and then there were matches that were on the show that shouldn't be on national television on any product, whatever your company is. But we'll get into that. But like, big talking point for me is like they've started to bleed in not just World's End build, but there's a lot of talk about Wrestle Dynasty across the weekend AEW shows, mostly around the women's tournament and mostly around the headlines coming out of that. But still no real reference to Kenny Omega, as we said on the weekend show. There's been a bit of a news story that's been pushed in certain circles of a possibility that Kenny might end up working with Okada on his comeback, which is certainly encouraging, at least on the AEW side. Not necessarily a match I need to see retread, but it tells you maybe a little bit about what his presentation might be when he comes back. Obviously he was in media this week doing interviews, as was Gabe Kidd, building up their match at Wrestle Dynasty. So far, no build for that on AEW TV. That might change on Wednesday, but yeah, I'll just see Kenny Omega slotting back into things. And do you think they'll mention this before we get to World's End in a couple of weeks?
I really fucking hope so. My fear is like they're not going to mention it until the last possible minute because it'll be like because of the integrity of the Continental Classic. But my God, have a promo package next week and then say he's going to have a live mic the week after. Wherever you can get away with it, obviously with taped holiday shows notwithstanding, and then just have him put out like I'm going to put out a challenge, like and at least do it that way. Like get him onto the TV as quickly as you can. I mean, you'd like them to build in standard pro wrestling promotion wise, to have at least some sort of like pre-tape package and stuff, because it's weird given the amount of focus that Wrestle Dynasty kind of had. Really, it was I just
want it to feel important for me. It's like it's weird because it's like, as we talked about on weekend show, Wrestle Dynasty's coming up. It's Tony Khan will tell you it's an AEW show, but the reality is it's kind of almost, it's not a house show, but it's what Forbidden. I think a few people said this on our Discord. It's what Forbidden Door is to New Japan. It's important, but it's only so important. But it is technically an AEW show happening on a Sunday, so you would imagine at some point they're going to start giving it the hard push that Kenny Omega is going to be returning to wrestling. We're starting to see footage of him training with AEW talent and such. So he is in the US, he is available. I just find it odd that it's more for me. It's less a case of selling the show Wrestle Dynasty and got World's End coming up. It's a bit of an all-in, all-out situation. I totally get that. For me, it's just the importance of the fact that Kenny Omega is back. Like, it is, that's what they need to get across. It needs to be the most important thing happening in the company. Kenny Omega is coming back to AEW, and these early signs aren't necessarily that's going to be the case. Although, yeah, depending on what he gets involved in, I don't know if you've got any more appetite for another Okada series than I do, but like at least maybe that gives you an impression that it's going to be something as a singles wrestler. They're going to have to deal with the elite drama and such like that. But like, that's always been the problem for me with Kenny Omega in AEW. It's like there's an argument to wrapping him cotton wool and be careful with him and make sure he doesn't hurt himself. And obviously he's coming back from something very serious. However, he's working a match at the Tokyo Dome in New Japan. So he can clearly do matches. But I think AEW always conflate that with, well, we can't present him as the most important wrestler on the product because we have to wrap him in cotton wool and we have to put him in trios matches and we have to put him in, the plan wasn't it, tags with Kota Ibushi, who I don't ever want to see back in AEW again. Or, Kenny's always been, for better or worse, like, not the most important man in the company when he is the most important man in the company for AEW. And I think you can protect him and give him limited dates. Ramen mentions in the chat there, Roman Reigns comparisons, and Kenny a while ago talking about how he wants to be presented similar to Roman. You could present Kenny similar to Roman. He could have the same amount of matches as Roman Reigns in a year. Matty's gone now, we can say it, but they'd be good. And he can come across like Roman Reigns does as the most important wrestler in the company. I suppose the point I'm trying to make is the two things aren't mutually exclusive. We can protect him, we can protect his body, but we don't have to waste the fact that we've got this wild card of Kenny Omega in what is mostly, outside of maybe some of the Continental Classic, a pretty miserable promotion to watch right now. Like, think of the joy when Kenny Omega appears on screen in AEW again. Think of like the massive news story it should be that Kenny Omega is even doing a match in Japan. Like, they should be trading on that goodwill and making us all excited for Kenny to be back in the fold.
Oh God, yeah. Why does it have to be so binary? It doesn't have to be one thing or the other. There are like degrees of this. Every one of his matches should feel like an event. And they should feel like an event because you would present him as he is the best wrestler in the world. So he's not going to do this all of the time. He's going to be sporadic and you're going to have to go through it. You can do promo packages. You can do interviews. There are things you can do in between. It doesn't always have to be just like angle. It can be stuff around like not character development, but you're like presenting this guy who is like, it's one of the few sort of top guys in wrestling, in American wrestling, who hasn't been to WWE at some point in his career, and should be within the storyline that they're telling, the kind of this guy is back. This is like one of literally the founders of the company. So if you're wanting to put like the kind of the nail in the coffin of the Death Rider stuff, he's the perfect guy to kind of do that and then move into it. Also, it's probably your last proper big time singles run you're going to be able to do with him. So you need to shit or get off the pot, because how many times have we seen this, that they wait and they delay and then something else happens? And you should be going nowhere near tag teams, nowhere near trios. Part of my annoyance is the amount of time they've wasted on him.
Yeah, we kind of had it a little bit, didn't we? Obviously, we had the Takeshita, matches. We had the Ospreay match at AEW. A lot of it was around Don Callis family, drama and all that. But that little window we got of that use of Kenny Omega, that's what I want. And I think this is a good news story. I think the idea that he's going to be in with Okada tells you that it's going to be singles Kenny Omega in a match that they'll be able to sell as prestigious, that they'll be able to sell as a big deal, that them two, wrestling again, but in the United States this time. It might even just be, one of those where it's like, remember those Rampages and Dynamites where it was like, I can't remember which of the two it was. It was, Kenny and Danielson. Was that a Rampage opener or was that a Dynamite opener?
Dynamite opener.
You could give it the hour, couldn't you? You could give it like all that time and you could build it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a pay-per-view match, but promote it and make it feel important. And that, to me, I think they will with that match. So it's probably a good news story.
Yeah, it is. And the thing that I try and remember is there's like two of the Okada Omega series are in my, like, some of my favorite matches of all time. Part of the reason I always think we haven't done that, and it would be like a very worthy Patreon show to do, but fuck me, there's a lot of watching to get through there. There's long matches. But these are incredible matches. And it's the fifth one in the series between them as well. So it's
relatively different fresh wrestlers now. Yeah, Okada's not probably going to want to do that like type of long match. It'll be a different way of getting there. So yeah, that too. But yeah, that's possibly the use of Kenny Omega as he comes back. We'll get more into a card in the Continental Classic in a minute. All the big news stories coming into AEW coming off of the weekend. As I think you put on our notes, unsurprisingly, Chris Jericho appeared in GCW this weekend, helping Effie beat Matt Cardona, and then I saw the footage of him hitting the elbow on I think it was on Effie, and then taking them both out with a baseball bat. Do you reckon, is this are we gone full now? Are we doing ECW at the Manhattan Center? Are we gonna have a, like I said on weekend show, a front row of all of the of Joey Janela and the lads pouring beer on the different AEW wrestler, ROH wrestlers and getting involved in the show? Seems to be leaning that direction, doesn't it? After maybe the Matt Cardona stuff being pretty milquetoast on Dynamite and Collision, they haven't really brought up any of this history, but it's still there in the background.
It feels, when I saw this happen, I just thought, oh, okay, Tone's been on the old CZW Ring of Honor feud, and just thought I'll have me one of those, and I'll use GCW for it. It feels.
Don't know if that's an insult to CZW or GCW. I'm not sure which.
That's the incredible thing. I think it might end up being an insult to CZW, which I didn't think was possible. Like it'd be like insulting XPW in many ways. Like, but
I could imagine Jim Cornette cutting those same promos, but on GCW. It could work.
It'd also work if Ring of Honor had any kind of an identity whatsoever for them to kind of
Final battle of the weekend, mate. We're going to be previewing it on weekend show. Can't wait.
Yeah. They brought, I mean, that was the other thing to note, is they brought up Wrestle Dynasty many more times than they did anything with Ring of Honor Final Battle, which I think was mentioned like once on Collision. I think they had it appear on there. But yeah, completely unsurprising he's there as well. They're gonna they've decided that they're going to turn this into a
Final Battle. What do you think about that? As like it kind of says where we are, doesn't it? I always feel bad for it. I think SP3 does Fightful's ROH show news. I always see him on Twitter just with his head in his hands. That they're like, they're watching these ROH TVs that mean absolutely nothing, and then a pay-per-view comes around and it's just insert challenger from the AEW roster. This time it's not even someone from the AEW roster. It's Matthew Cardona, who once had a good match with Nick Gage allegedly in GCW. I enjoyed it. But it's a real. When you've got Athena right there, and I think again that was a conversation being had there today on the Discord about whether there's the legs in that program for Athena to main event. Jericho versus Cardona does feel a little bit out of left field.
It does, and it feels very low rent. And I don't think anyone's seriously expecting Matt Cardona to win. And I don't know how this gets him a TV deal. Like, maybe these are the things that come to mind. I'm incredibly unexcited about this. The only benefit is the possible bells and whistles that we've mentioned that could go along with it. That could be fun. But as an actual match and a draw, it's not even the Matt Cardona from the indie scene. That's the other thing as well. And that's the Matt Cardona that does some business on the indie scene as well. You're not even getting that. You're getting effectively watered down Zack Ryder, really. That's kind of where we are with it. I don't know, unless it just appears to be part of them working GCW into the whole kind of bigger storyline for that, and maybe they think that kind of angle will generate them some heat and some buzz, and that will then lead to them having stories to be able to tell if they get anywhere near fucking TV. But I'm not quite sure. I mean, as much as I like the idea of it, in my head, I don't know if I want to see any sort of GCW invasion angles. It's not going to be good. They're not fucking good.
I find it funny. I don't know if
I find it funny. Yeah, absolutely. But that for me would be the one saving grace of that as a main event. But
yeah, I think if they want any goodwill at all, and obviously we're not we preview the ROH TV pretty much most weeks, or talk the results on weekend show a lot of other weeks. Athena Billy Starks has been their long-term story. I get from the people who are watching it every week that maybe it has lost a little bit of its luster. I think you need, for a bit of goodwill, I think you're better off going off the air, I think, with those two. And I think that audience in Manhattan Center will still, snap that up and make a lot of noise for it. So we'll see. But yeah, we'll be previewing the full card on weekend show this weekend. But I don't know, maybe they could add a last minute, JP. We've got Big Boom AJ and MJF have been doing a bit of an angle. This is at BRCW at an indie show. MJF doing an appearance there. Apparently, he'd worked QT Marshall on the show, and AJ and what you call it? Sorry, me screen's frozen there. QT
Big
Marshall.
Justice. Sorry.
Big. Yeah, I'd gone for head to head, and we ended up with getting involved there. MJF and got a bit of from what I saw the clip, loud response, and yeah, obviously MJF spots a hot thing when he can see it. There, could see MJF, AJ, and Big Justice going on at a Dynamite near you, maybe sometime soon.
Do you know what? Here's the choice: that as a feud, or MJF and Adam Cole. Which one would you want to see on the TV? Which one do you think would actually end up being more entertaining? I think
I'm into it. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, like I just think, okay, if you're going to use him and you're going to have a celebrity there, which might get you some sort of like some kind of traction, you do this. You're not doing anything with like anything substantial with MJF. Just end this thing with bloody Adam Cole at World's End and move straight into this and have a fucking daft match on a pay-per-view where he ends up beating him, but he gives him a fair bit in the meantime. I mean, there's enough bells and whistles with that could work, and there's enough good skits that MJF could do with these guys. I'm amazed what kind of sway have Boca Raton Championship Wrestling got on fucking people where they can attract this kind of a
that was the real name.
Yeah.
Wild.
I was like, I've never heard of this. Have they got like they pissing away money or what? How's this happened? But yeah, of the two, I know which one I'd be fucking watching.
It reminds me a lot of comparisons being made from MJF to Chris Jericho in that when Jericho saw QT Marshall wrestle Action Andretti, and it was like, oh, I'll do that same match, but I'll do it on Dynamite, and it did not work anywhere near as well as the QT Marshall match. I think MJF's having that same thought, but yeah, I could see. You know, they'll find somewhere for it. It'll be a TV or it'll be a pre-show, or they'll find a way to do the match. And yeah, of course, MJF was going to leave that money on the table. But yeah, on that note, getting into more AEW, obviously Dynamite, the second to last non-simulcast TBS Dynamite. So they're going to be obviously on Max come January. Those ratings are going to be fun to dig into. It might actually turn out. We'll do it on unlikely. Gareth might be right that the Dynamite number, at least on TBS, might well start falling in January. So look forward to the grifters pointing at it and ignoring the fact that it's also simulcast on Max. But yeah, we do have a couple more Dynamite before the end of the year. This week's got Ospreay versus Darby Allin, Mercedes versus Anna Jay for the TBS title. We'll be talking more Mercedes in a bit, and apparently MJF is going to be appearing as well in Washington, DC, the Entertainment and Sports Arena, your old haunt, JP. But yeah, going into this week's Dynamite, what did you make of the weekend's TV and the Continental Classic? And like I say, bit of a mixed bag, but actually quite notable collision for me this weekend.
It was like I thought there was stuff on Collision that I did find myself as like, this is being a lot more enjoyable, a lot less fucking ad breaks, as you mentioned earlier on as well, made it a little bit easier. And I thought the main event was a surprise. I went in completely unspoiled, so I didn't quite see Mark Briscoe defeating Carl Fletcher as being like a thing, but I was glad to see it. Carl Fletcher loses nothing as a result of it. I think it's like it did feel substantial as well.
He's like the momentum behind him right now. Like I say, I've had my quibbles with. I felt like he should be winning some of these matches clean coming off the Ospreay match, but momentum is momentum, and like just getting all of these wins on. It's kind of similar to what happened with higher levels of what happened with Garcia last year. Like just seeing somebody on telly winning all the time. All of a sudden they start to get momentum is a thing, and you can lean into that momentum and make them a person. Totally, like that was obviously the Continental Classic on the show. We had Okada Mortos, which was solid enough, but I'd say Fletcher and Briscoe totally lapped it as far as a main event goes. It really was. I bought it because Carl Fletcher shows you stakes, wins and losses matter in a tournament like this. I wasn't aware that he lost the match, and I haven't seen him win so much, and I haven't seen him be the one they've kind of got behind. And Mark Briscoe his story in the tournament has been he's been a bit of a loser outside of the Daniel Garcia match last week. You would just buy the Carl Fletcher one, and that was that. So they put a really good story together with it. The heat that Carl Fletcher's getting, and he's leading into, and he's doing a great job with. Thought he was brilliant. And if you want there is no more sympathetic babyface than a Mark Briscoe. You have to go to like your world class Sami Zayn types to get somebody who's as good as being a fighting from underneath sympathetic babyface. When he hit the J Driller, I was genuinely thinking that can't be any of fault. It's the J Driller, but surely Mark doesn't win, and he won. And I was like, did a little bit of a jump in my living room, just excited that Mark Briscoe got himself 3 points in the Continental Classic, and heel Kyle Fletcher had been unable to make the low blow work for him this time. It was wrestling storytelling done well over a relatively long match as well, for a main event on Collision as well. And the crowd were with it all the way, and I thought the work was great. And Kyle Fletcher is rising to the level of his push right now in AEW.
Oh God, this was I loved so much about this. I love the fact they were 15 seconds away from the fucking time limit. Like,
and you've got to do that sometimes, haven't you? It makes it all feel more legitimate.
Yeah. And you had then for that final minute, there was just like sort of all sorts happening. And like you say, when he hit like Jadra, I didn't expect him to win. I thought at that point I was like possibly a draw, but I was like kind of like really pleasantly surprised. But Kyle Fletcher is like, you can't argue with this. He's been given this mammoth opportunity and he's taken it. And he's kind of overtaken Takeshita within that kind of like stable as well, which is a sad thing to see because they both should be kind of up there. There's still stuff that's like promo stuff that's like kind of raw, but just the way that he's able to play heel, he's really good at it. This is a lad who, how old is he even at this point? He's probably 26, 27. He can't be much older than that. I'll have a quick look. 25. Like it's good to see him succeed. And I thought this was, as far as the match, and I watched it just before we were coming on to record. I managed to fit it in, and I was really glad because it was something that, it felt like it was worthwhile. It was like a big match within the Continental Classic. Like I say, it had stakes and it was unpredictable. You don't often get that within wrestling.
And I think, I thought Collision was good in that way that it was, and it's Collision, so we won't spend too much time on it, but like it was bookended by that. Thought that it was a good night for the women's division Collision this week. Like there was a lot of, pushing forward in the women's division as far as like stories go. It's funny that the Tony Storm controversy we were talking about on the weekend show, which, we're having a match on Rampage after a return on Dynamite, which, we've said ourselves, the Rampage is where things go to die, especially now. They only put like a 90-second highlight clip on YouTube now, Rampage. That's how important Rampage is in the overall AEW canon. So there was absolutely, a reason why Alvarez went on that rant, and it was such a talking point tail end of last week. But I think a lot of people, and I'd kind of noted it when Tony Storm came back on Dynamite, the fact that she did look a bit wild-eyed and like surprised by the crowd reaction. I quite like the little story they're doing with her. She's going full Fight Club Pro Spud, isn't she? And she's doing the whole amnesia angle and doing
that's exactly what I was thinking of. That time we turned up to Progress and he was setting up the ring. And was it Fight Club Pro? Was it one?
Definitely. You think he did it both? I think he did it in a few different places, didn't he? It was a fun little gimmick he had across I think it was like the autumn of that year. But like, it makes. You said it on Weekend Show, and I think the way you worded it, I think was really interesting. In that, like, you were like, it's not for us, but she should go back to that gimmick, and that's kind of wrestling, isn't it? Like, if something's working, like I wouldn't put the belt on her. Like, there's two other women I've had fighting over the belt on this show, Collision this week. But like, as far as a gimmick that has gotten her more over than anything else she's ever done in her career, and a run that has had her more over than anything else she's done in her career, and more consistent as a character on TV, it might not necessarily be for the types of us, JP, but it's a much better route than going back to, legitimately going back to Tony Storm with the funny sunglasses and the funny hat. Like, it fits her, and it's a way back into the Mariah match. I'm all right with it.
So, like on paper, there was a stuff about her comeback being on Rampage and stuff like that, which is, again, I have to say, like, wasn't keen on. Seeing it in practice, like where the character's going, especially with like the Thunder Rosa backstage bit as well, and like, oh, Tony Schiavone legend, and all of this kind of like, it's the confidence she has in herself to do character-based work is there. That's the thing that run has given her. And that confidence is still there. Whether or not the content can match it is going to be like always, as with all of these things, is like the big test in it. But she will go back to it. It's what kind of format. And the more you say it, and given what Thunder Rosa's like, there is that part of me that thinks you could have her cost Mariah May the title at World's End. and get it back to get it onto Thunder Rosa and go in a different direction for the women's division, and have those two have like a blood feud match at All in Grand Slam Brisbane, and do that instead. I'd be fine with that. Doesn't need to have like the big title change.
Yeah, it's March, isn't it? So yeah, that would kind of line up, and lines up with Carl Fletcher's big push there. But yeah, like I say, it was felt like a big night for the women's division. Chris Statlander obviously winning a squash, and I thought Willow Nightingale and Jamie Hayter.
Yeah,
maybe it's just me watching this as the opener to Collision, and obviously they're setting up this World Cup thing that obviously is going to pay off across New Japan that we'll talk about in a bit. But I watched Willow Nightingale and Jamie Hayter and was just like, yeah, this should be the main event of a pay-per-view. Like, these two should not be at the point where this is like an opener to Collision. Like, these should be linchpins in this division. We've talked a lot about Jamie Hayter, but yeah, Willow Nightingale's just excellent and continues to be. And I thought that was a really strong match on Collision as well, setting up that cup, which we'll talk about. Outside of that, I thought there was some top flight and against Action Andretti and Leo Rush, in the words of UJP, kill Jester. Don't need to see those lads work that match. Especially, I like Leo Rush. It's the rest of them. It felt very indie. It didn't feel befitting of television wrestling for me. I felt the same though about the Outrunners and Premier. Anytime the Premier athletes are on telly, I'm just like, that should not be on a mainstream wrestling television program. Hide that on ROH if you've got to do it. But yeah, they were the weak points of the show, and they were very Collision as opposed to the other things we just talked about, which were actually quite high quality stuff if you didn't watch Collision this week.
Yeah, that 10-man tag, a lot of that was like, this is mid-card Ring of Honor. Like, when you're just doing content for content's sake. Like, that's when the Premier athletes would be there. They're a comedy heel faction, which is a shame because I quite like Josh Woods. And I always think there's something there with the look and everything else, but it's just never gonna quite happen there. You think he should go to somewhere like, dare I say it, like a TNA, where there might be like more of a concerted idea to kind of push it. But yeah, as a package on TV, as soon as I hear Mark Sterling, I just glaze over. I'm just like, oh, you lads are losing. We know exactly where this is going, and I could give less of a shit about it as well. MXM collection are a kind of a meme. The Action Andretti that am I a bad person for saying in the moment when I watched it, I did kind of I enjoyed it, but I found myself kind of laughing and just thinking, these four lads have worked this match in training within an inch of its life, and they're just doing.
And then yet they went on television, and then like every move was hit like with about 80% accuracy. It was that, you know, when you watch GCW and you watch like the Flyers, you aren't quite at the level of people who will be on mainstream TV. It was that everything's just a little bit off. Everything's like a hair's breadth away from being the way it should look. It was one of those matches. I just don't see it in Top Flight, unfortunately. This grand old stage, I just don't think it's happening.
I think they missed the chance. I think the chance of Dante Martin, I feel like it's come and gone. There was something that was there at one point in time that was raw as a rough diamond as a singles. Yeah. It just holds him back in terms of attacking. I'll never see something in Action Andretti. And like you, in the main, I like Leo Rush. He's a bit weird at points, some stuff, but I
like that about him. He's different, isn't he?
Yeah.
The thing I didn't have much time for in the last thing I'll say, actually, it was a positive and a negative. Big positive, I thought the Darby Allin and Will Ospreay promo back and forth was fantastic, with Ospreay, you know, explaining why he's not getting involved in all this Death Rider stuff. And actually, if we'd have had that 6 weeks ago across the roster, but that shows you the level of, you know, I suppose at least you're getting that level of detail from Ospreay as to why he's focusing on this tournament. The Continental Classic's too important to him to pay attention to all of this Moxley nonsense. I think that was a good little tick box exercise, really, and well done as well as far as a promo goes. I really enjoyed that. What I didn't enjoy out of that story was the kidnapping that ended Collision this week. John Moxley's vision of AEW, I'm starting to learn, might not be my vision of AEW. JP. As we ended with a weird snuff film while they bundled FTR away and shot camera shot. It was very WWE, little camera shots from like behind the wall while they were waiting to grab FTR, and obviously the world class acting that we've come to express from Wheeler Yuta. It was rough, and it just made me again just think, let's get the story over with, lads. Now we purely are in WWE zone, if that's genuinely what Moxley is trying to fight against.
Yeah, that was whatever he's fighting against, he seems to be embracing wholeheartedly. This kind of storytelling is exactly the stuff he would have done when he's wearing a fucking gas mask in WWE.
Sometimes great performers aren't great thinkers. That's unfortunate. Like, he delivers the material well. His promos are great, but I don't think I ever asked for John Moxley as a booker, and if this is what it would look like, it's a bit like, it's not the biggest criticism in the world, but the way every match of his ends up with him blading, that just tells me I don't know if his brain is like wired to be like, well, what about the rest of the show, John? Why aren't the rest of the wrestlers always bleeding? Why is it always just your matches? And do you not think that maybe doing it in every single match, it maybe lessens the effect when it when you should be doing it? He doesn't seem to think like that. He's got a very specific way he sees wrestling and the way he views it, and I'm not at the end of this story, maybe a lot of it's getting mixed up with Tony Khan's vision and other people in the room, and the creative hasn't maybe been what he wanted, but yeah, I'd like it to be over.
It's fucking daft. That's what this shit is. It's just fucking daft. Like, it's whenever this
kid Ramen says, I've not read that he's in charge of the Death Riders angle. You'd like to think, I imagine Mox has a lot of like sway on it. That was at least the early report.
This is where we get into the conversation about their identity and the stuff that they're trying to do, and it's at those points where it goes into like WWE melodrama. And like kind of throwing in, I mean, weirdly, they managed to do the thing that we spoke about WWE kind of should have been doing at the end with the Kevin Owens angle. That's the thing that kind of makes sense. But yeah, I mean, FTR being involved in this now, I'm just like, oh, for fuck's sakes. I'm just looking at this, and there's a part of me wondered whether or not is it going to find out this staged and they're going to end up joining Death Riders as well. Like, there's that part. There's always that fear of me that there might be that kind of swerve into the mix. I wouldn't entirely surprise me, mate. I wouldn't rule it out.
You need to rewatch Green Street Hooligans, mate, and find out that there's a scene like that Moxley might have stolen for use. Pac as well in that angle again. The whole full gear thing. It's like it's a funny in joke from BTE 5 years ago. Just put a t-shirt on, mate. Like, no one's laughing anymore. Like, move on. Like, hate that.
Do you not remember seeing him in Wolverhampton? And I saw him. He was out on the street. And I was walking out of Joe's car, and he was wearing like full gear out on the street doing his like warm ups. And he's like on a fucking road around in a Wolverhampton industrial estate, and he sort of nodded heads and just thought that is a bit weird. He doesn't
own any clothes. Because when I think about it, when I saw him at Dragon Gate UK all those years ago, the only time I saw him in clothes, he was wearing a Newcastle top and his ring gear. So maybe that's all he owns. But again,
if I had a body like that, I'd also be showing it off in that way.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. A minor thing in the overall scheme of things. But yeah, that's AEW's TV from the weekend. Obviously, Dynamite coming up. Got a couple more before World's End and that busy period over Christmas. But related to AEW, New Japan Strong Style had Mercedes Moné in the main event, and the news story that's coming out of it is probably the most interesting thing. Although I did manage to, I don't know if you saw much else of the card, JP, from New Japan, but I did see that main event. Very strong, good stuff. We can talk about it with Hazuki as in a very, to be honest, felt very like the presentation of Mercedes Moné that I would like. Less talking, and then when she did talk post-match, it felt very, from the heart, that she's happy that she's going to be, doing a Tokyo Dome show, and, felt like an actual human being, which is always good. But as far as the presentation of her as a wrestler, both in the angle and the match, it was a lot more like the Mercedes Moné that might actually make you some money, which is supposedly the gimmick.
Do you know what? That was pretty much my notes verbatim. This is the version of Mercedes Moné that I would like to see and I would handle. Like, I was astonished. I thought the match was fucking really good, really strong.
Yeah. Crowd really into it, man.
Really, really fucking into it as well. And Hazuki will have got herself a good few bookings based on the back as well. I thought even the stuff they did with the post match, I was like, oh yeah, that's a good place to go with her and Mina Shirakawa, even if it might
Pro British title on the line as well.
Yeah,
Wrestle Kingdom.
Well, this is the women's part. They mentioned, but without mentioning Rev Pro, didn't they? That they said that, well, if she defends her belt on Sunday, because I very much doubt they're going to replace her with Danny Luna at Wrestle Dynasty. But so it made me think, well, but then if you've got a chance of having Mercedes Moné come over, and even if you've got to do some kind of a slight schmoz thing to take the belt off her, you'd like to think that she'd draw a crowd for Rev Pro as well.
But I think she would.
This will be the test. I think she would do. Just the novelty value alone, and it may not always work, but I'm just thinking Crystal Palace. It's like I think you get a good number in there for that if you can get round to that as well. But yeah, everything about it was like she was still a heel fundamentally, or still somewhat of like that annoying CEO character, but just it was backed up with her being good in the ring and working with someone, even if I hate her finisher, I just hate it a couple of times. It always comes across like kind of shit. She's never in line to kind of hit the DDT portion of it properly. But I thought like this was like a cracking match. And just the way, even at the end, like I saw all of this show, and when it like she was going around getting selfies with all the fans in the front rows. It felt like she was like, it was like, who's this person? I have not seen her on AEW TV at all. And it just feels like New Japan cracked it in that one night of like, yeah, this is how you should do it.
Yeah. Minimal speaking, and just have matches, because again the match was really good. I love that setting, like we were joking about the Walter Pyramid. He's a great bloke, Walter, he'll buy you a pint, but his pyramid, I love it. I love, like, it's a great venue because it looks different. You put that New Japan ring in, which already looks different. It's lit bright, the yellow seats, a few too many empty ones unfortunately, but everything about it feels completely different in presentation to like any other American wrestling product. Like, I love that about it. And yeah, from what I saw, like I say, the crowd still up for it and still up for a match like this. And like that again, but on all of the near falls. I didn't necessarily, again, Mona, I think the whole in Mona's game, she needs to drop the money clip or the money, whatever the finish is called, where she just falls on her ass. Terrible. Didn't necessarily buy that near fall, but like it felt like, maybe I'm just speaking for me, because Uki is not somebody I'm familiar with. It didn't feel like that crowd were necessarily familiar with her. And I'm not saying a star was made in one night, but like she became like, this great baby face like in front of your eyes in that main event. And a lot of it was the work and the near falls and the hot close and stretch that they gave in this one. It's worth going out your way to check out. The full match is on YouTube. I don't think it's officially on the New Japan account, but it is there. It's about 25 minutes or so. Absolutely worth your time.
Yeah, absolutely. And
is she someone you're familiar with, Hazuki?
Vaguely familiar with, so she's always challenged, like they mention it on commentary as well, like she's very much like, I'm saying Goto-esque, but in the sense she's challenged for all the major titles and never won them. She's been part of the furniture. I think she'd retired and then had come back. They'd also mentioned that in there as well, so that might explain some of the gaps from when I've seen it. So I have seen her, but I've not seen a lot of her. But and there's a part of her, like presentation wise, where you just think, like, does she have the look and feel of a standard Joshi wrestler? Sort of technically very good, but you're maybe not invested necessarily in the matches. But there was stuff I liked about that, a bit more of a stripped down presentation. And I thought, yeah, I can get on board with this, because sometimes, I mean, what I find sometimes it's when it's that jarring presentation of Joshi wrestlers on American TV can be a bit like slightly all over the place, because you already are getting two cultures kind of like mixing together, and sometimes it doesn't always work and always connect. But I thought she did a cracking job here. She got the crowd round on the side. Just to mention about the arena, when looking at this, even with the empty seats, I was going, this is the type of arena they need to be running. Sub 5,000, where even if you don't sell it out, you can set it up in a way where it looks busy and it looks different. And yeah, it doesn't have massive LED screens. I'm sure with 185 million a year, you can spring for a couple of them that you can ship alongside. But that level of arena, and even with a search on search on like Google and Reddit in particular, managed to find like a whole list of relatively interesting sub 5,000 seat arenas that maybe do some bit like high school, but just a like kind of unique buildings. And it's just like, you can go there, lads. Doesn't need to be these kind of like you've got 4,000 in an 18,000 arena, because it is kind of soulless. It's just like even the crowd here, and New Japan never bothered to move people around. It's a bit weird like that in their presentations. They allow the empty seats to be there a lot, but the people who were there seem fucking into this show from like beginning to end. To be honest, they were like quite a hot crowd for the relative few were there. I think it was just over 2,000.
Yeah. And the other big, obviously, note of the show, obviously, Great Young Veterans lost the New Japan Strong Tag Belt, which, we misnamed the ROH Tag Belt. They haven't had them yet. I'm sure that's coming to the West Coast Wrecking Crew. And again, from a tag team point of view, strange place for it to happen. But the Young Bucks and Jack Perry started a bit of a suppose an angle in the post match as they kind of, it was a weird kind of dynamic because the Bucks got cheered even though they were coming out to help their heel friend Jack Perry, who was I guess being teamed up on by it was Takeshita Shingo and Yota Tsuji, wasn't it? They made the big save and then the clip that they put onto the social media is Jack Perry not being happy about it and storming off, that teasing dissension here. Yeah, I guess it fits into the story if you are going to tell that story, that the Young Bucks are fucked off from AEW, and they are, you know, not present for the Moxley invasion, but they're present here. You know, it's something you can call back to if you need to with that story. And I think probably the bigger thing is that this is in California, so it was an easy trip for the Bucks to do there. But yeah, did you make anything of that? Obviously, again, the other part of it being the build for Wrestle Dynasty, which will have the Young Bucks working a New Japan match once again.
Yeah, this is the thing, and they're working Naito and Takahashi, aren't they? And Naito and Hiromu for that as well. So at least there's a bit of like cachet to that.
It's Great O'Khan and they haven't said the partner. It's O'Khan.
Yeah, it's the partner of his choosing. Right, sorry, I wondered.
Yes, we still don't know who that is actually. I don't know. Yeah, guesses out there.
Don't know if they'll be
Jack
able
Perry,
to...
Yota Tsuji. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Jack Perry, Yota Tsuji. I mean, I thought it was kind of weird, partly because I don't know how long has actually Jack Perry been in the Elite. It's not been that long. And I don't like for this sort of stuff when you're turning like doing dissension angles, I want a couple of years work before you get to that point, to the point where you believably are they actually sick of this person. I thought the match itself was pretty good in there. And like you say, it was an easy fan service getting the Bucks in, not having to travel too far and whatnot. How I feel about them in New Japan, there's the part of me that like feels on AEW TV again that they should maybe make some mention of this, of like, well, where are the EVPs while all of this carnage is going on? Oh, they're off going to be wrestling in Japan instead. But again, there's not any kind of like mention on there as well. But and I want to see Takeshita on loan to I've said this so many times, it bores myself. But if they're not going to do anything really substantial with him, and he's got this international title, which I'm already forgetting that he has, then fuck me, just send him over to New Japan for like a year and just have him win IWGP World title, just come in and fucking dominate for a year and then put over Yota Tsuji at the end of it. Just like fucking go in that direction.
Weird that like Tony Khan wants to be a good partner when he wants to be a good partner, I suppose, and that's his, you know, that's his prerogative. AEW should be the priority, but it's just so odd that like he's willing to give up Kenny Omega's big return to be a good partner, but also, you know, as we've seen with Rev Pro over time, maybe this Mercedes thing will be a change. You know, not as willing to just let wrestlers he's not using every week, let someone else play with his toys. Like there's a clear like open goal there, isn't there? Not necessarily on the New Japan US shows as much, because that has happened a fair amount. More talking, going to Japan, and a lot of that young AEW roster could, despite what New Japan is now, could get a lot better. New Japan would win because it's cheap talent at a time where they haven't got a lot of money behind them. It's a win for everybody, isn't it? Tony's just got to fork out for a hotel for a couple of months, or, you know, I'm sure they can stay at the dojo, send some of the lads over. That makes sense.
Oh, mate, the loan market, January transfer window,
Chelsea, innit?
Players not being used. Yeah, you move them out. It's like you say about Chelsea. How many of those lads could go and get decent loan moves to good clubs all around Europe? There'd be a lot of them. A lot of them you'd be kind of interested in. It's the same with AEW, but it's also, if they were able to do it, they'd have the rights to to use some of the footage to say, oh, you know, so when wrestlers have been in tournaments doing profiles of them in a G1 and whatever, and to say, this is what one of our guys that over there wrestling in this prestigious tournament, you might want to keep an eye on it. Like they can do that when they do these kind of little excursions and the rest of it, but a lot of them need it. Like, God, you probably speak about most of the Ring of Honor roster, but someone like, say, Will Hobbs would come across like an absolute
He looked good at Rampage
monster.
this week. Didn't mention Rampage.
Yeah.
But it's pushed number 400 for Will Hobbs. Let's hope this one sticks. But yeah, you're absolutely right, though. You could see him like on a G1 or something like that being the difference making heavyweight. Lance Archer, but good there, I say. You know, it's possible.
Yeah, exactly. He'd be like the big hoss who no one knows anything about, and have him come in and like you can have him go through people. But he can also he can work good matches. It's him and Takeshita at World's End as well, which is like, I mean, that's going to be. While I don't like to see Will Hobbs taking a loss necessarily, that's what I can end up seeing there. But like they're the kind of wrestlers that like that's being a good partner and getting them to use them. And it won't always succeed, but you'll get better use out of them. And New Japan just need all the fucking help they can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But yeah, unless you've got anything more on Strong Style Evolved, the other big show weekend, or do you?
I would want to give a shout out. Gabe Kidd versus Rohei Oiwa. That's how you pronounce his name, apparently. It was fucking great. It was a hoss match. It was like it wasn't a long match. They just smashed the shit out of each other. He cut the typical Gabe Kidd post-match promo, but bloke looks like a fucking star. And Oiwa looks like
This will do him real good, the Omega program owner. Matty already has, clearly.
Yeah. He's taken this with both hands, and it's raw and it's childish at times, given what his character's like. But I'm really enjoying it, and it works. He just instantly gets like real heel heat from like crowds as well. I haven't got to the point where people are like turning against him, because he's the way he presents it as well. He's completely unlikable, and he's just slagging off AEW at the end as well. And it's kind of fun to hear like a character like be able to kind of portray themselves like that. And so, yeah, I would give a shout out for that match. I thought that was really good, as well as Hechicero and Leo Rush had like a quiet little mid card banger.
And Hechicero, victim of MJF, I think.
Yeah,
remember him?
He's fucking great. We saw him against Zach, didn't we? Have a good match at the Copper Box as well. But this was really good, and he won. And he went over clean. But I think this is the thing when watching this and watching it from beginning to end, just because I had the time today, and I was like, I started watching the beginning and I went, I'm kind of liking this. And I stuck with it the whole way through, like 4 and a bit hours, like in between, like breaking up stuff. But I was like, I had the chance to be able to sit down and take this in. And it's good. I just wish it was presented better. And we've said this before, but New Japan of USA, I think is what the official title is, they present themselves. It looks like a better product than New Japan, and it's a more interesting product with more interesting moving parts to it. And you think, okay, it's just if they could get like some momentum behind them, it could be good. And things about the production, it's always like letting them down. But this, you'll see a lot worse than this show. I'll tell you that.
Speaking of which, also this weekend, the other notable, I was going to say big show of the weekend, notable to an extent, show was from our friends over at TNA, Final Resolution. Only one place to start with it, and it's the thing that's dominating all of their socials this weekend. For better or worse, was the return, as believed, of Tessa Blanchard. The rumours are true, the commentary did say. Yeah, she came back. There was some back and forth as to whether Jordan Grace was going to be willing to work with her going forwards. And yeah, obviously it's something we've talked about at length. The fact that, she's alleged to have made racist comments and has never to this date either admitted or apologized, despite the evidence that gets put in front of her. She's been gone a while. She's back. TNA probably hoping they're low enough profile that it'll be fine. But she, I don't know, the reaction she got in the return at Turning Point was like, it was half heel heat, half just clearly people didn't necessarily want to see the human being. Even TNA fans at this point, so it's horrible to say, beggars can't be choosers. They have got there's a particular place in the market, and there's they do have to make use of some broken toys, as we often used to say, but. This is quite the broken toy to bring back into this new Anthem-led regime. Yeah,
even Scott D'Amore, who's the king of rehabbing broken wrestlers in the 21st century, would have a real job in his hands here, because it's a really funny one. Because I think the idea is, maybe I'm wrong on this, is that she's not likely to get snapped up by WWE, or AEW, so they'll be able to use her for that length of time, and because of the CMLL stuff, New Japan stardom would become like incredibly difficult. So maybe there's an assumption that she won't be able to go anywhere if they're able to use her. But they're also, if they're booking these big arenas, they want to hit a bigger level. Therefore, there may come that bigger level of scrutiny. And the fan base they currently have, a lot of them are going to be very aware of the backstory of Tessa Blanchard. They're not going to be going in there blind at all. So you're always fearing the kind of reaction to it. I think I said this to you on the weekend show. It's just like, is the juice worth the squeeze for this? Is she going to be that good? Dare I say, and I fear this about TNA, is they're going to be leaning into a lot of this stuff. And this is genuinely distasteful if you're going to use like this character's a racist as like an ongoing storyline that you're going to throw into the mix.
They'll just
like,
say
it's
she's
like,
controversial, won't they? The controversial
Yeah.
Tessa Blanchard, and not say why she's controversial.
Yeah.
And it's not like she stopped working in this time, is it? It's a bit like, not quite a Marty scale, but she's been around. She's been CMLL. She's been, what was the women's promotion she did with AJ Lee? Wow, yeah. Of course, yeah, it was the WoW reboot, wasn't it? So she's been working. So probably was only a matter of time.
Yeah, it's big shoes to fill. It's Jordan Grace. Jordan Grace has been an absolute staple of that women's division for several years now. Also about like a good 4 years, feels at least. And she's done a hell of a job to the point when she goes into WWE, she's already going to be a known commodity and she's going to be pushed. So like, I don't know. It's just it's not worth the grief. And I don't have any belief that they're equipped to be able to handle any of this in a sensitive way, or have the leverage to say to her, look, can you just apologize?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, if in the most cynical sense, it's the most obvious PR thing to do. Why don't you apologize? And if she won't, and she's unrepentant, and by all accounts, this was witnessed by a lot of fucking people who, like, either they're all incredibly conspiratorial, all teaming up to make up this horrific lie about the racist thing she said to La Rosa Negra, or that they're all actually right and this did take place. And it's like, well, in that case, like, fucking own it. And there isn't the willingness to do that. And she's 29 now, so you can't be saying, oh, she's a kid and whatnot. It's like, nah, actually, you fucking old enough to kind of go, nah, that was fucking horrific of me. I need to make amends.
Absolutely. Here, agreed totally. And that's the reason why TNA is where she is and she's not. As I was often a big booster of her in 2019 and early 2020, like, not in the places she should be, considering the talent that she's got. But yeah, we'll see. The rehab begins here. But yeah, that was probably the main talking point from the show. Joe Hendry won the number one contenders match. Is it Genesis, the show coming up? He's going to be the number one contender for where the TNA belts of the Rumble. You would guess, if that's still a thing. Are we still doing that? I think we might still be doing that. Either that, or he'll wear it while he's the Christmas number one. Maybe that's the goal instead. But yeah, that seemed to be the most newsworthy thing, unless you had anything else from the show.
Not really. I think it's like the only other, from a match perspective, completely bang average across the board. I think the 4-way might have been the most fun, and even then it wasn't like it was absolutely tremendous. But it's,
who was that?
Like,
for?
when
You mean? Oh, the number one contendership.
Yeah, for the number one contendership match. But it's just like, you had an opportunity to put the belt on Joe Hendry at fucking Bound for Glory when he was massively over, and they did the most TNA thing in the world of, no, we need to hold back on that. And there's no good reason for it, because even if you're only keeping him for a few months, use those few months. They're not in a position to be able to kind of quibble about that. So just to repeat it again, how many people are going to end up, and it's all incremental with them. It's not like tons of pay-per-view buys, but it would have pissed off some people who said, I quite liked Joe Hendry, I'd like to see him win. And instead they're not fucking, like, they're doing it. It's like, oh, now we're going to do it. And it's just like, you had your chance. And these things, you've got to strike while the iron's hot. And maybe it's just me in the circles I'm in. It doesn't feel like Joe Hendry is massively hot still from what he was. And they had that opportunity, and it's just trying to go back to it. And it feels like they're gonna go with him, but fucking hell, it's like he should be the guys in fucking place here. Like, weirdly enough, he would have probably had a more fun match with AJ Francis, which is tough, but at least they would have played in the song stuff and the piss taking. They would have done that. There'd have been bells and whistles, and they'd have got away with it. Instead, it's Nick fucking Nemeth, who I could not give a solitary shit about.
Apparently, Tessa Blanchard, just on that again, has said that she's not signed with TNA, but is looking forward to working with Jordan Grace, and maybe it's a more temporary thing. We think, or maybe it's on a trial basis, or something like that. I guess we will see. But yeah, unless MLW had the show also this weekend, JP, to complete the triumvirate of mid-level American quasi-national companies. ROH, I suppose, final battle coming up this weekend as well. I think that's it, really, isn't it? Not much else that happened this weekend.
I don't honestly think there was anything else that happened this weekend. There was nothing really. I haven't seen the final gate, the Dragon Gate show, but I think that was it, because it's the weird stasis, isn't it? It's like from World's End, we get a series of big short shows going into the new year, and obviously the first few days, and culminating really with WWE on Netflix on the 6th, unless you want to include Fight for the Fallen in there. But like that's the thing. It's this weird. We've timed the Grappy and the Clappies well, and Ask Grapple, because it's always that's like the dead period. Crappy. Sorry, what did I say?
Clappies. We're all doing
Fuck's
it.
sakes, doing
Sorry,
it
Andy,
again. Sorry, Andy.
I've got it in everyone's brain. It's my fault.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a weird state of affairs. I feel with like what's like we've got this kind of couple of weeks where we are going to be basically treading water, and in the case of AEW, like the kind of like the tape shows, WWE building to Netflix, and we're on this path. I just never expected to come out thinking I'm more optimistic about New Japan than I am anything else that I watched this weekend. I haven't been able to say that.
I think Collision was the show of the weekend.
Yeah.
This week I very much enjoyed Collision and the Continental Classic stuff. Quietly look forward to that Dynamite card this week. Saturday night's main event won't make me list, but maybe next time. Maybe we'll get it right. But yeah, on that note, up to anything else this week, JP? Before we get out of here, what should plans? Yeah, getting prepped for the Grappies and the Crappies. Is that the plan?
Yes.
Week? No, that will be the Patreon bonus show at the end of the week for patrons. Will be the Crappy Awards. So yeah, sign up now if you want to hear us talk the worst of wrestling. But yeah, be doing we researched this week. I think JP Christmas parties in the office going on. I'll tell you that's about it.
I relatively little. Getting ready for Christmas. Off to see Arsenal actually on Wednesday in the Carabao Cup. So against Crystal Palace. Now suddenly that tournament has a bit of meaning, given that we're not likely to win the league. So it's just like, well, hang on, this might be the main chance of silverware.
Game on Saturday afternoon, that mate. Amazing, brilliant.
Fucking hell. I said it on the pre-show. We were off. Charlie was meeting Santa for the first time. Well, I say first time. He met another Santa and he attacked him. And so the second Santa was more fearing that. I was following the game and it sounded like I imagined it in my head. Sean Dyche drilled sides down to an inch of his life. Ashley Young fucking rolling back the years. Incredible stuff.
Love it. Well, there we go. Hope everyone's set and ready for Christmas. Like I say, busy period coming up of both wrestling and podcast. Patreon.com/grapple for all of that. But yeah, outside of that, thank you, patrons, for another month. Thank you, live patrons who've tuned in live with us a little bit later on a Monday night. We'll obviously be been a wild little period with a lot of Saturday pay-per-views and a lot of shows going on. Should be back to a sense of normality once we get through this period into January as well. But yeah, thank you to our Kings of the Mountain as always. Conor Laughlin, Eddie Sideburns, Chris Platt, and Carl Gack. We'll have Simon Mulvaney and Ewan Cameron's bonus shows coming up in January as well. But until then, go for folks. Have a great week. Have a good Christmas if you don't get to the Grappies before then. But we'll catch you again on Sunday night for the Grappies and the Crappies. Good night.
Bye. Ho, ho.
See you later.